today to share with you police body cam footage from the 3 fires that took place in Kihei, Kula, and Lahaina on August 8th. Sergeant Bell is tasked with preparing the Maui Police Department's after-action report and will go over approximately 16 minutes of body cam videos. He will show areas where officers responded and the conditions that the officers and residents endured while being surrounded by fires. So just as a disclaimer, some of these videos are graphic and does contain profanity. When encountered by life or death situations, profanity can be expressed as an emotional response, which is a reality of police work. You will see how officers did their best to save lives and property when surrounded by the oncoming fires. What you will also see is officers who lived in Lahaina respond on their days off to help. One officer who was working and lived in Lahaina couldn't check in his own family to include his newborn baby. He did not know if they got to safety as he was helping other families evacuate. What is not said is that of the 13 Maui Police Department officers and staff members that work and live in Lahaina, 11 of them lost everything, to include family members and their homes. We can't forget our officer who lived in Kula, who lost his cottage and had his house burned by the Kula fire. So to say that the Maui Police Department did not do their due diligence to save lives is false. So, following Sergeant Bell, Chief Pelletier will give his closing remarks. So, Sergeant Bell.
Thank you, Chief. Again, I'm Sergeant Bell. What we're showing here today, we're highlighting some of the actions by our officers on August 8th. It also shows members of the community and other first responders taking action to help save everybody they could. This first video is going to be of the morning fire, starting at 6:41 a.m. There's going to be 2 videos, and they're at a residence off of Ho'okahua Street, or they're at residences off of Ho'okahua Street. The first clip shows an officer who had already been attempting to evacuate this particular residence for a few minutes before electing to kick down the door. Another officer will arrive shortly after, and they'll both evacuate this party in a police vehicle. You'll see the fire in close proximity to the residence as well.
You gotta hold on to my hand. We gotta move, man. I got you. We won't let you fall. We won't let you fall. We won't let you fall, I promise. Hey, let's go. Yeah, well, we gotta, that's what we're trying to get out of here. Okay, come on, come on.
In this second clip, they're going door to door of residences on that same street. So this clip is also in the morning. This is one of the same officers from that first clip we showed. And this officer still has that male in the back of his patrol vehicle, and he's conducting announcements via PA to evacuate the neighborhood. This here, starting with this video, you'll see a series of videos from the same 2 officers. They're in the same police vehicle over the span of about 2 hours. This is the first video during that afternoon fire. The video starts at 3:06 p.m. You'll see the officer, one of the officers grabbing a garden hose, immediately running to a house to the rear of Ho'okahua Street on the south side of the house. They'll briefly attempt to put out the fire with garden hoses. Then they'll leave, conduct door-to-door evacuations of residences on that street, and then before returning back to that same residence. So this is a continuation of the same video. They're just running up the street, conducting door-to-door evacuations here.
Police department. Fire started up again. This house is going to catch on fire pretty soon. They have propane tank, so I would get out now. Yep, grab everybody.
So he runs back, and then these two officers, along with Sergeant on duty, will come and try and extinguish this fire of this shed here.
Shit. Oh shit. It's not spotted, bro. This is. I'm gonna just throw this in there. Yeah. Think so? There's a big flame in here. Yeah, on this side. I don't know, it's still pretty big inside.
This next video is these same officers stayed there until about 3:22 p.m. They immediately went down to this neighborhood that's located below the bypass, the Kilauea Mauka neighborhood. As they're headed down there, seeing that structure, at least one structure had already caught fire. By 3:24, they arrived at that house, and one of the officers ran to the rear where they directed some people to evacuate to the rear of the house. They then start driving around the neighborhood and announcing via the PA system, where this video starts at about 3:27 p.m.
Everybody's got to evacuate. Evacuate. Yeah, I know. That's what I couldn't see shit. I couldn't breathe. Everybody's got to evacuate. Evacuate now.
So what that officer is talking about is, and it's going to be in the full release, right? What that officer is talking about, he couldn't see anything and he couldn't breathe. Prior to that, he had tried running into the back of that residence that I'm talking about, and there's pretty heavy smoke. Those residents are backed up right against Lahaina Luna. Again, these are these same officers. They continued those PA evacuations in the neighborhood and identified that traffic was starting to back up on Lahaina Luna Road headed Makai, as well as out the other exit, which is out of Komomai, the newer neighborhood, which then goes out to Kuoa Street and then to Keawe, which you see here. Keawe Street was backed up. These officers made their way down to Keawe Street on the Makai side in front of Lahaina Gateway, and noticed that traffic was backing up at that intersection with the highway. At this point, they're able to direct traffic into the Lahaina Gateway parking lot, as well as onto highway to try and get vehicles, basically to end that chain reaction of vehicles stuck up in Lahaina Luna, in that Kilauea Mauka neighborhood. So that's that video you see here. And this is starting at 3:56. It'll be a short clip, but then trying to do that, then it'll jump to about 4:05 p.m. a few minutes later. So all of this traffic at this time is coming from Komomai Street. They're all the way down there. At this point, they move up. It's the same two officers again. They move up to Keawe Street and the intersection with Kuhua, where that road then turns. If you look, Kuhua Street runs straight into that dirt road. It's the old dirt road that runs up behind the Waikuli neighborhood. This clip will start at 4:17. It's about 12 minutes later, if you note the visibility in this video. By this point, another officer had actually met with some civilians and a county worker, who then in turn opened those gates along that dirt road, and they're able to evacuate people north. Basically, they located another egress route. There's a police officer along with a couple other people, a couple civilians. And so if you start this video, there's also going to be another clip shortly after at that same location of them directing vehicles basically out of Kuhua Street onto Keawe Makai, as well as onto the dirt road. Prior to this, visibility was pretty poor up on the bypass, and there's no vehicles really traveling the bypass, though they weren't sending vehicles because the fire started Malka, that bypass. By this point, at about 4:32, these two officers then moved up on the Lahaina bypass. At this point, they're stopping vehicles from heading into Lahaina, so north on the bypass towards Keawe, and they're trying to get vehicles south to head towards, I guess, Olowalu, or south towards the Wailuku direction. That's where this video is here. So at this point, they have vehicles traveling south as an egress route out of Lahaina, as well as trying to turn around the northbound traffic. Again, these same two officers, once the bypass was pretty clear of vehicular traffic, they moved to the south side of Lahaina town. This is at Hokiokio Road and Honoapi'ilani Highway. This video here, you'll see a number of things. They are on Hokiokio Place. They're looking Makai bound towards the highway, and you'll see vehicles coming up towards them, coming Mauka, at which point they're turning them back south on this road that runs parallel to Honoapi'ilani Highway. You also see vehicles headed southbound in the distance out of on Honoapi'ilani Highway past that Hokiokio intersection. Okay, so those videos were all in a row up into that point. This is going to cut back to about 4:10 p.m. on the opposite side of Lahaina at the north side of Front Street and Honoapi'ilani Highway at Fleming there. So this video will show that, and cars coming out of Front Street and turning northbound. There are police vehicles blocking the southbound lanes of travel, and as the video pans, you'll see the line of vehicles still attempting to head south towards Lahaina town. Also, on the radio, you'll be able to hear another officer who's just north of this officer's vantage. There's an officer just north at Leali'i Parkway. He's calling over the radio that some people advised him that the poles are starting to fall north of that Leali'i Parkway intersection. And that became a problem later as that blocked all of the northbound lanes out of Lahaina on the highway there. These next few videos are going to be of a single officer at a sequence of events he experienced starting at about 4:32 p.m. This is up in near the stream off of the Kilauea Malka neighborhood. There's a yellow gate there that he's going to attempt to open utilizing his some tow straps. Some community members will come up with a sawzall and they'll end up cutting the gate and be able to get people out there. This video, there's going to be two videos in a row. It's along the same egress route there pictured in that red circle. There's going to be two gates that they end up having to get through. The first, you'll see the officer pull up. There's already community members attempting, and they're able to get the gate open a little bit. The officer comes up, attaches those tow straps, and it'll rip the rest of the gate open so vehicles can pass through. You also see an officer that was off duty at the time. He had to evacuate his family, and then he's assisting that officer there on scene. The second video, you get to a second gate where a vehicle stopped there. You will hear some profanity in here, but you can see the officer's exigency in trying to get people out of this area. And you'll also notice directly next to that second gate they get to, there's a fully engulfed structure right next to it.
Get the fuck out of the way! Fuck! Jesus fucking Christ!
This next video, you see an officer, it starts at about 5:24 p.m. He's conducting evacuations using his PA system around this area, this red, I guess, bordered area here. But what is not shown is pretty important, and some of it will be on the body worn camera release. What is not shown is he had a pretty important, he took some pretty important actions here. Around this time, Front Street was pretty backed up. It was very backed up trying to head north. Honopi'ilani Highway had some issues just north of Keawe with the poles coming down and the intersection of Keawe and Kapunakea completely blocked there. This officer had come down to front in the area of the old Lahaina Luau, and he started directing cars up Kapunakea and onto the highway to alleviate some of the traffic that was on Front Street. Where this video starts is a little bit after that, where he's conducting PA evacuations in that area.
Evacuate, head north on the highway. Head north on the highway. Everyone evacuate. Head north on the highway. Head north on the highway. Everybody evacuate. Head north on the highway.
This video will show an officer doing multiple door-to-door evacuations in the Kahoma Village neighborhood. Towards the end of the video, you'll see a structure that's already on fire, and you'll see the officer making contact with an individual and advising that person to evacuate. This year, it's going to be a food land in Lahaina, and the coffee bean, the coffee bean and tea leaf right at the food land in Lahaina. This is going to have two officers that actually responded from Wailuku. most of the area is already engulfed when they get in there, and they find about 15 people that basically barricaded themselves within the coffee bean. So the police officers, along with some fire personnel and some other civilians, ended up loading those people in their vehicles, and they let them out to the Lahaina Civic Center. This next video is Aulike Street, and it'll show an officer doing door-to-door evacuations. He'll actually make contact with a party of, another unit at the residence to see if anybody's in the front unit. They're unsure. He'll actually take a peek inside, at which point another person from that back dwelling will say that the people did evacuate. So this clip.
Is it just you guys in this house? Is it just you guys in this house? Is it your house? I'm not sure if they're there. What's the front door? Hello? Let me just double check. Huh? Let me just double check. Hello, police department. Is there anybody in here? Evacuate. Okay.
This next clip is going to be in Kula. This is off of Pulehu Nui Road. This is where the fire was fast approaching this area. This officer was actually doing proactive evacuations in the area. And that's where he's met with the individual on the property. He says that he's looking for a mother and son, at which point the officer realizes he already had made contact with the son, but they end up searching a part of that property anyway here.
Hey, gotta go, brother. The fire's right behind us. Huh? What? Sorry, I can't hear. Let's go. How many people is there? Oh, the guy in the barn. Yeah, the guy's grabbing the mom right now. Where do they live, over here? They said they're with the animals. We just gotta let them out. It was in the front of the house, so. You just came in. What is it? What type? Which house is it? Is it the main house?
This is going to be in Kihei. This is at Kaiwahine Village, where Kihei officers are conducting door-to-door evacuations of residences here.
Hello. Yeah, we're evacuating the houses. The fire is coming down this way.
601, 601 unit channel.
The key community center right across at the aquatic center on the floor, top of the board.
Over the phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can get
Oh,
right
you're
down.
Aquatic Center?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
All right.
This is going to be of other Kihei patrol officers simultaneously evacuating Ho'olike Street as well.
Hi. Everybody on the street. Just in case. Hi, we let everybody know that we're going to evacuate everybody on the street. Yeah, just in case.
So this is going to be back up in Kula, Pulehu Nui Road again. Just to lay context, this officer had cleared this property 3 times prior to this video already. This is going to be his 4th time going there. The previous 3 times it was cleared of individuals. Actually, one of the property owners was insistent that there was somebody there, but it was cleared 3 times. Prior to this, on this 4th time, he notices lights up at the property, at which point he goes up here and this video begins.
This is not fucking important. We're trying to fucking get everybody out of custody. We gotta come back here for fucking time.
This is also up country. This is off of Pulehu Road here. We have multiple officers. A tree had fell blocking a driveway where some parties couldn't evacuate. So we had a number of officers there. One who actually had carried his personal chainsaw and he's cutting the tree in front of the house and they're hacking it with a machete as well. So they're working to clear as this tree was blocking this party's driveway. At the end of this video, you'll be able to see the fire kind of in the background approaching. Kind of off on the left side there. This is going to be back in Lahaina. This was actually a Kihei patrol officer who was off duty that day and responded to assist looking for work. In the parking lot of Lahaina Cannery Mall, he located an individual who did have some severe burns. They communicated with fire department personnel. This officer ends up putting the individual in the back of his patrol car and transporting him all the way to the hospital. And this video can be graphic for some.
Yeah, I don't like them here. You guys can't cruise around with them either, right?
No, so when you get around this house is going to fire. This pole's are about to go down, and the next one by Turnout's is going to go down.
Okay.
After that, we're trapped on this side.
Okay.
So we have 5
I want to get out of here. Okay, all right. Hey, Matt, come with me. Sorry.
You're actually on 10-1 and I'll try.
Get in there. Yeah, I'm going to take it. Maybe I'll just take you straight to the hospital. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay, all right. You're welcome.
And that will conclude our videos here. Chief.
Aloha. This is not just pulling off a Band-Aid, but this is ripping open a deep wound for this entire community. It's not lost on us. I think what's really something to note is why are we doing this? Why are we setting this up? Well, the UREPA request is due today, and some of this footage is going to come out. We thought we had an obligation to this community that we would give some context to some of the videos that they would see. We're releasing 20 hours or so. That's just 16 minutes. And so for us to release all that and not tell this tale would not be right. We are sorry for all those who suffered and lost. There's a lot to unpack with what you just saw. I want you to think about this. From the very beginning on the 8th, you saw officers saving lives. You saw officers going into houses and getting people out of harm's way. You saw evacuations being done a little bit after 3 o'clock that same day. It's not just us talking about it like we did in the September Police Commission meeting. You saw officers with their bodies smash gates. You saw people do everything they could, literally standing while fires going on, knowing that there's propane tanks. MPD did that because it was the right thing to do, because that's what they're trained to do. There's been multiple narratives about what took place on the day of those fires. This body-worn camera footage makes it very clear and convincing that the Maui Police Department, the men and women of MPD, went above and beyond, and their actions reflect the finest tradition of this noble profession. I and this staff could not be more proud of MPD. God bless them. God bless you. Mahalo.
At this time, we'll take questions. Let's start with A'a.
So after reviewing all of this footage, are there any lessons learned, areas of improvement identified at all?
Okay, so the question is, after viewing all the footage, if there's any lessons learned or areas for improvement.
You know, that's a great question, and if I may just expand on it just a little bit. We just put these videos together at about 12 weeks from the time of the incident. We just started our after-action review about 8 weeks ago. And so we only could get to the videos that we had some of the narratives in order to do that. And I said our preliminary after-action would be done about 6 months after the incident. I'll be looking for the conclusion of the entire package approximately 18 to 24 months from that. This department's been extremely transparent, as you can see. And so as we are continually looking, we are jotting down and looking at what went right, what went wrong, and how can we get better. And we have identified some of those things as far as action items. Some of those things include certain equipment things, certain policy things. I'll just share this. You got about 20 hours of body-worn camera because the way policy says right now is once you arrive on a scene, you activate your camera. We're looking to change it to once you're dispatched to a scene, you activate your camera. That's a significant change because you might capture some of the other things. And so it's not anybody's fault because they might not have been dispatched to this critical incident, they just jumped in. So some folks didn't activate, why would they? The policy doesn't say that. And so I think it's a very interesting narrative, but I think it's also one that helps us, one, to be more transparent, two, to help us improve as an agency, because then we can capture more of the different things and learn from those things.
Okay. We'll jump to Civil Beat. Christina?
Can you talk about who is writing the after-action report?
Okay, so the question is, who is responsible for putting the after-action report together?
There will be a number of us taking part in it, and I will have multiple parts in writing the after action, and I know some other members that are part of the after action group will also be taking part in that.
Yeah, and so what we did is we put a committee together. We want to make sure that we have a patrol and investigative component. We've got our body-worn camera component. We have our intel officer that was working that day. We've got folks from the MINT, the Morgue Identification Notification Task Force. We've got all of that compiling into the after action. And so there's a methodology for it. It'll be very comprehensive. But I think it's best that once you get the preliminary, that we review it then, and then as we build from that to the final, it'll help with the product. But I can assure you this, it's going to be shared with the entire law enforcement community nationally and internationally, and it will hold muster, and it will be presented in such a way that it reflects the entire incident as well as lessons learned.
Just to follow up to that, understanding will be MPD writing the report?
Oh, absolutely, it's our report. It'll absolutely be our after action based on our processes. No, for instance, nobody else knows our policies the way we do as far as what their intent was when they were created, but we know that. And plus, they don't know what our SOPs are, and so we want to make sure that we do that. I have already contacted a couple agencies from outside the state that will be reviewing it prior to us releasing it. So if there's anything that we've missed, and they know who they are, but I'm not going to say who they are at this point, but it will be something that will be shared because we understand it's going to be scrutinized over the test of time.
Chelsea.
Have you noticed a decline in mental health with the sworn or non-sworn personnel after the fires?
Okay, so the question is if we've seen any decline in our personnel's mental health after the event.
That's a great question. It really is, and it talks about officer wellness. So let's just talk about that for just a second. President Barack Obama, after the events of Ferguson, created a document, 21st Century Policing. I know we've been mentioning it for quite some time. There's 6 pillars to that. Okay, trust and transparency being one. One of them is wellness, and I would liken it to the 6 legs of a table. To me, that one particular pillar seems to be ignored a lot. We talk about these other pillars, and right, they're all important. But this one here is key because that's our people. That's their families. It's not just telling them you love them, it's showing you love them. And so what we are committed to do here is to make sure that we have the most comprehensive wellness program possible. We didn't just start this on the 8th of August of 23. We've been putting this into place for quite some time. And we're going to look at every single aspect of officer wellness that we can to make sure that all of our people, sworn and non-sworn, have all the resources available. So as of now, they have a chaplain program that is fantastic. We actually have family members that are chaplains, and they've been engaged with our people from the moment of this onset. We have peer counselors. Again, these are department members that understand critical incidents, and they're there for them. We have had, for the last several years, a psychologist that we pay for that does monitoring of our employees, and our employees can actually have sessions that the department pays for that the employee can attend. We are, later this month, bringing in the Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Administration, and their Valor Initiative, which is the largest comprehensive program that the government offers, and we are about to have one of the biggest programs they've ever compiled. And we're going to do that with a level that really has never been done before. And we have a meeting in 2 weeks for the initial kickoff. That's one of the things that we had gleaned from the IACP that we had attended. There are other things that we're looking at, but I can tell you this, that our people know that if it's okay not to be okay, and we don't just say that, we're doing proactive measures. If we identify something, we'll have hot washes, and believe it or not, even though as painful as this may be, there is some maybe some closure or some ability for us to even just tell this, which does help the narrative. And so if we see that something's not right, we identify it, but we don't just throw a word and say wellness and give it, well, you know, it's just wellness. Maybe 50 years ago, this culture, that's what you did. That's not what MPD does, and we're going to continue to monitor our people and make sure they're okay.
What are hot washes?
Discussions, like after action, but it's more of a formal, more of an informal discussion with those that would be involved. So maybe like on a critical incident, like a smaller scale, let's say you maybe had a child death, you might have the supervisor pull in the team, talk about that event, and see if that anybody's having any issues they want to talk about it. That'd be an example.
Okay, we'll circle back for one more. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have anything on behalf of? No? Okay. We'll circle back. Okay. Christina?
Yes, so for how many officers is footage available, and did some not activate their cameras?
Okay, so the question is for how many officers we have the footage and how many aren't available? Jeez.
Yeah, I don't have the exact number of how many officers did not have their have footage from body cams, and for those there's a variety of reasons. as the chief stated, a number of the officers responded straight from home that day. Some of the officers had been working from that morning, at which point there's going to be the beginning of some of the videos, and you'll see the videos die because the batteries die on the cameras. And then as well as a number of officers in the moment did not activate them at certain points in there. Just based on the different circumstances, it depends. But we do not have the exact number of officers that did and did not. Not right now, I don't, sorry.
I noticed some of the ones you showed, there was no sound. Is there a reason why?
Yes, there's a option on the cameras when officers are conferring with each other or on something, or they do have the option to mute their camera. At which point that footage was muted and never turned back on at that point.
There's also a 30-second delay when you activate. So the way we set up the cameras here, and this is very consistent with different law enforcement agencies, it's not just MPD. Once you activate the camera, it'll go back 30 seconds, and it'll capture the past 30 seconds, but it's only once it gets past that initial 30 seconds, then the audible kicks in.
Chelsea?
Yeah, how many officers did you folks start August 8th with, and then at the height of it, how many officers were working, or I guess all over the island?
Oh, okay, so the question is how many officers we started for the day of August 8th for all districts? And then
Yeah,
at the height?
And the height of it. Yeah.
I think at this point, we only have the information for Lahaina district.
For that one.
Yeah, sorry, right now I only have the information from that day for Lahaina on the number of officers. And actually in the morning, I don't have the exact number for that morning fire, but our officers from the night prior had stayed on shift and assisted until they're relieved, most of them around 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, between those hours. They went home and were later called back in around 3 p.m. at the start of the afternoon fire. However, at the start of the afternoon fire, there's a total of 13 officers that were in the district. That includes the captain, the lieutenant, and a supervisor. They also had already called in a number of officers to assist with some of the issues they're already facing that day, which was the poles falling down. So a number of those officers were on traffic posts of the 13. At the height of it, we ended up having about 38 officers in the district later on that night. But the exact arrival times of all of those officers really vary. Some of them responded from home, as I stated, evacuated their families, and then responded immediately. A number of them did that. A number of them drove from the Wailuku district and the Kihei district. And then some of our other specialized units, guys that were available, ended up coming into district as well to assist. But again, about 13 at the beginning of the afternoon, the fire that started at about 2:55 p.m.
On a normal day, what is the?
On a normal day, there's 5 beat patrol officers, a sergeant, lieutenant, and a captain that are at the station, and then a number of specialized units officers, so the community police officers as well as the visitor-oriented police officers. So that on a normal day, there's going to be 5, about 10, 11 or so-ish, depending. They had called in a couple extra, and then the rest they called in at the start of the second fire. So basically everybody that was working the night prior, they got sent home at about 9 to 10 a.m. and recalled back at about 3 o'clock, a little bit before 3.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for coming. This will conclude our press conference for today. Mahalo.